Greetings. Welcome back to our Universal Literary Canon series. While here at UCLA, I'll be concentrating on Jewish literature, but not just Jewish literature. I'll be concentrating on it, but not exclusively. However, this evening I am concentrating on it exclusively. In fact, I'm quite excited for finally having arrived at the subject which has always been dear to my heart. And that's the life of one Shlomo ibn Gabirol, or Solomon ibn Gabirol. What is so unique about Solomon ibn Gabirol? Now, we've already touched on the lives of two great medieval Jewish writers, Ibn Battuta, who gave us the duties of the heart, and Ibn Ezra, who, of course, has immortalized his poetic verse in a number of our Kol Nidre and other Yom Kippur related services. But Ibn Gabirol was unique because think of the game of telephone. Now, what does this have to do with medieval Jewish philosophy? In the game of telephone, it starts out with one person whispering in the ear of the next person, who down the line whispers what he or she heard. And usually by the time it's reached the end of the line, it's not the same as the source. So it was with the life, or rather the name, of Solomon ibn Gabirol. Like all the other medieval Jewish philosophers, historians, and writers, he hails from a great Sion lineage of Jewish rabbis. That's not what concerns me, because I was a template of the day. You had to hail from one of these great families. You had to go to the best of yeshivot and kolalim, etc., etc. What interests me the most about this man is that he was the first Jewish philosopher to write a work that not once mentions either the name God or makes even a reference to religion. Yet by a unique, fortuitous set of circumstances, his name would become identified, at least in the eyes of the great medieval Christian scholastics who would come to idolize his one work. He would be mistaken as King Solomon. He was not King Solomon. I'll let the words of Chaim Haydn speak better than my own. I'm reading verbatim from the entry, Ibn Gabirol, Solomon, from the Thesaurus Book Digest, after which I will offer a few more remarks. But Ibn Gabirol was born 1021, deceased 1058. He lived to be 37 years old. An outstanding poet and philosopher of medieval Spain, Solomon ibn Gabirol was born in Malaga late in 1021. He died in Valencia about 1058. Early orphaned, he was taken to Saragossa, which was the center of Jewish culture, where he displayed his precocity in rapidly amassing all the learning of his age. The larger portion of his literary work has not come down to us, but we know that it can be divided into biblical exegesis, grammar, philosophy, and ethics and poetry. Exegesis is just a highfalutin word, which means biblical or literary interpretation. Nor have we any knowledge of the dates on which his books appeared. Much of his religious hymnody has been included in Jewish liturgy. He wrote Choice of Pearls, a collection of Arabic maxims. Maxims is another word for proverbs. And an ethical treatise, The Improvement of the Moral Qualities, unique for its odd arrangement of the virtues and vices in relation to the senses. in a day when versification was not limited to so-called poetic themes, but could be employed as a vehicle for law, science, and mathematics. Ibn Gabirol composed a long poem on Hebrew grammar. More than a score of philosophical essays, of which we have no trace today, were written by him in Arabic, and by an error in reading the word meaning the Malagan. They were recorded as by King Solomon the Jew, instead of by Solomon ibn Gabirol. Through an even more unusual error, his major philosophical work was for centuries ascribed to one, quote, Avisibron, unquote, corrupted in several stages from the author's name. Hence, we hearken back to my earlier remarks about the game of telephone. This book, Fons Vitae, Latinized from the Hebrew Mekor Chaim, is Aramaic and Hebrew for fountain of life. And of course, the Latin Fons Vitae means the same, fountain of life. It is a neo-Platonic treatise, which fortuitously, that means with no design, quite by accident, quotes no biblical or Talmudic verse. This dialogue between master and disciple, which posits matter and form as the basis of existence and the source of all life, was accepted as a good Christian classic by the Franciscans, as epitomized by the writings of Alexander of Hales, Duns Scotus, and rejected by the Dominicans, Thomas Aquinas, for instance. The error which permitted many scholastics and later Christians to employ a Jewish theological work as a document of their faith was not discovered until the 1840s. Once again, that beautiful sounding Hebrew title, Mekor Chaim, Fountain of Life. Great, religiously and spiritually surcharged work, because it makes not once a mention of either God, Talmud, Tanakh, or any of the rabbinic writings, the Bible, Tanakh, but yet it stays on, what's the basketball term? Well, anyway, it's, how do I put this? It's focused completely on spirituality. Fons Vitae, Latin, Fountain of Life. Read about it. If you lived 700 years ago, you've been told that King Solomon wrote it since the 1840s.